In Moscow's Red Square lies one of the strangest relics in the world, the preserved body of Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin, sealed in a glass coffin for everyone to see. But what if I told you there's another glass coffin, not in Russia, but right here in America, along the shores of Lake Michigan? There is, and inside isn't a president or a commissar, but a cult leader who once claimed he would never die. Here's Chris Sariano, the founder of the House of David Museum in St. Joseph, Michigan, with the story. This is Lee Habib, and this is Our American Stories.
The year is 1927. The place, Benton Harbor, Michigan, home of the House of David, a religious colony led by Benjamin Purnell, who preached that if you followed his message and gave all your worldly possessions to him, you would never die. Unfortunately for Ben, though, he contracted tuberculosis, which he died from. Here's Chris Sariano with what happened next.
He didn't teach ever that he was going to die. So here he died. It was pandemonium. It was mass chaos at the House of David. So Benjamin, they kept wrapped in damp, warm towels for 8 days, thinking that he was going to rise again. Finally, the Berrien County coroner said, listen, it's been 8 days. You either bury the guy or we're going to bury him.
But luckily for the House of David, they had the Soviets to look towards for inspiration.
Well, during that process of having him wrapped like that, they found out the process that Lenin in Russia had been used to embalm and put his body in a hermetically sealed glass coffin. That's what they did.
And there Ben Purnell sat for the next 60-some years in his hermetically sealed glass coffin, while his massive mansion decayed around him as the House of David dwindled in numbers due to their belief in celibacy.
But in 1988, twice the House of David Diamond House got broke into, but the first time that they ran quickly. The second time was not a good day. These kids, these 4 kids, had studied the movement of the House of David people. They figured out when the House of David people moved back and forth around the Diamond House. They came back. They cut a hole in the roof of the Diamond House mansion where they dropped down, and they spent the entire day stealing things. So vases, urns, statues, oil paintings from all over the world. These things came from the richest of rich people that joined. Those things disappeared. Well, they wanted to see Ben, and they found out that he was in his parlor. There's a stone wall that separates the catwalk from the Diamond House annex into his area. One of them was a contractor. They went back to his house, got a big ramming bar, and they rammed a hole through this stone wall. And they made it big enough where they could pull the rest of the rocks out and they could get their bodies through the hole. And they got into his parlor where his tomb is at. And I interviewed those people. They told me, Chris, when we got in there, it was like a pharaoh's tomb. So around Ben's glass-sealed coffin, which was up at an angle, were piles and piles of rings and diamonds and rubies and necklaces and vases. And when he was buried like an emperor. So Ben had a 22-karat diamond ring on his finger and a big, huge diamond-filled and ruby-filled white gold custom-made necklace from House of David Jewelers. And they took the pry bar, the ramming bar, and pried the glass dome off of his coffin, which is hermetically sealed. It can't be sealed again. But they broke the ring off of his finger, broke his finger in the meantime, and ripped the medallion off of his neck. And the 22-karat diamond on his finger was one of the biggest in the world at the time. So they got away. They got away with that break-in. I interviewed the state police officer at my museum one day, and he said, Chris, I'm the one that made the arrest. And I said, tell me about it. And he said, we had pictures. The House of David people had pictures of all these things that were in the Diamond House. And he said, me and my partner are driving through Benton Heights, which is a rough part of Dodge in this area. And we look over, and in front of this trailer is this little nickel-plated parlor stove with flowers growing out of it. That was it, right? So they walked up to the door, knocked on the door, and a lady answered and said, ma'am, we love that stove that you have out there. Can you tell us where we can get something like that? And she said, well, my ex gave it to me for some gift, but he doesn't live here anymore, but here's his name and phone number. Bam! He gets busted, he's got loose lips, they all go down, right? So come to find out, because there was such a massive amount of things, they were afraid to sell everything. So they took everything and divided it equally amongst them, and then they would take it and hide it. One hid it like in the upstairs of his barn. The other guy hid it in a storage area in his basement. The lady hid it, Clausen lady, hid it underneath her wrap around her mobile home. None of them sold anything. So they got all that stuff back, except the 22-carat diamond ring, which McCoy Brothers appraised at like $2.5 million. They found out that those kids took those to the south side of Chicago and sold them to a jewelry dealer there, like a swap guy, for $12,000 cash. And then he had taken the diamond and sold it to a diamond buying place in London for like $60,000. Supposedly they chopped it up and sold it off differently so it wouldn't be detected. The scariest thing was the girl that told me the story. She came in my museum twice, 2 days in a row, spent hours without saying one word. And finally I went up to her, my mom and I were there, and I said, man, you seem really fascinated by this story. Can you tell me why? And she said, I'm the one that broke in the Diamond House. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, this is all my stuff is right here in front of her. In the end, she said, Chris, you know what? I would do it again right now. She says, the best high I ever had in my life. I'm thinking, I can't buy a good enough security system at this point.